everyone, and welcome back to Amity Blue. My name is Nazi. I am so happy to finally be back. I took a little break and decided to venture up into the Georgia mountains, basically restore myself and recharge my battery. The style that I'm focusing on right now is linen and lace. It's a perfect subdued, romantic, dreamy type of style. So I decided to create a linen and lace journal, and the inspiration behind it was fairies. And here's the journal that I ended up creating in the linen and lace style, and it was completely inspired by the magic of fairies. I really wanted to go back to my roots of creating my fairy journals. I wanted to capture the innocence, the girliness, the magic of fairies. You know, even though I'm 22, I still to this day believe in fairies. Fairies were something that were presented to me in such a magical way when I was little, and to me, a fairy can be anything as a bird, a firefly, or even a human. There are people on this earth that have a natural light to them. They bring happiness, they bring love, they bring magic to our lives, and to me, that's what a fairy truly is. It doesn't have to be this little tiny magical creature that's only in fairy tale books. It can be a person. You yourself can be a fairy. And I really wanted to capture the spirit of a fairy into a journal in its purest form and still maintaining that beautiful classic look, but with a modern touch as well. I am over the moon in love with this journal. It not only has special significance to me, but I just adore all of the textiles that were used. I used a lot of the textiles that were included in my linen and lace textile kit. The textiles used are truly heirlooms in itself. And if you yourself are a lover of the linen and lace style and are interested in learning how I create some textile embellishments, definitely stay tuned for tomorrow, where I will be sharing another release of some textile products, as well as a class that focuses on this linen and lace style that is a signature of mine and is the style that I truly, truly adore and love. So here is the journal. This is the journal that one of you guys will be lucky enough to receive. As you can see, it is completely stuffed, and that's exactly how I love creating my journals, especially the journals that have a purpose, that have a meaning to them. This is a textile covered journal, as you all have seen time and time again, that I have used. The back is this beautiful embossed fabric, and then on the front I have collaged it with various buttons. I did this beautiful floral embroidery and basically collaged various linens and laces together to create the cover. And just like with my bohemian journals, I love including ruffles and fabric tabs on the side. And then on the closure, if you can see here, I have a little locket, and it's a silver heart locket. And inside of the locket, if you can see, it glistens. There is a floral rhinestone bead captured inside of the heart locket, and this is meant to resemble the spirit of the fairy, her heart, the magicalness that is captured inside of her soul. You can keep it as it is, you can make it into a necklace. This is really yours to do whatever you'd like to, but I wanted to capture the soul of the fairy in the most magical form, and so I captured it in a little locket. So I hope that you guys like that. I thought it was a really fun and really special touch to include to the journal. And then opening it up, it looks so pretty. I love how this looks when you open it up. It looks like a book that you just want to explore. It reminds me of a fairy tale book with the color scheme and the embroidery, the laces. I am just so proud of this journal, and I love how I captured the image that I had in my mind of a linen and lace fairy, and I really am over the moon in love with it. Here in the front cover, as always, I have one of my pockets, and in the pocket I have a little envelope and a little letter that you have written to the fairy, and it's really beautiful. It has some fairy images on there, and it has some writings about fairies, so you can put this in your envelope and you can ship it to your fairy friend, or you can ship it to anyone that you'd like. So it's always important to have an envelope and a little letter in case you want to ship it to any of your fairy friends. And then on the opening page, I really wanted to put a lot of embroidery into this journal. I'm starting to experiment with different types of embroideries, so I wanted to capture the beauty of flowers in a meadow, and so I put that on an embroidery, and then I collaged various textiles around it. And I've also created a little pocket up here at the top, and in the pocket it has some little samples. some images of some herb samples, and I've passed them through my typewriter and written like thyme, rosemary. These are just herbs that is usually used for herbalism and for health purposes, and when I think of a fairy, I think of her healing people, utilizing herbs to heal people, and so I included some of that in there. And then here is the image of the fairy. Really, really beautiful little fairy, and of course she goes perfectly with the linen and lace style. Really love that first page, super, super magical. And then on this page, some ruffles. I have tea stained most of the pages. Some of the book pages I did not tea stain just because they were already very vintage to begin with, and I didn't want to risk them tearing. Some of the book pages that I included were from vintage herb books. And these book pages, music pages, they're perfect for collaging on top of, doing some art journaling, including and personalizing your own pictures. And then on this side, I have a little paper clip, and I created some really cute little charms. If you can see, there are these floral beads. Absolutely beautiful, and it really captures the essence of a fairy. I just imagine a little fairy perched inside of there. Really, really special. And on the paper clip, I have a watercolored image of this beautiful floral. This is from a book page as well, and I knew I had to include it in here. Imagine taking it to your typewriter, journaling around the flower. It just makes it look so magical. And then on the other side, I have including one of my floating wallpaper pockets. This is something that I love doing in all of my journals. Basically taking wallpaper from my ever-growing collection and making little pockets out of them and not stitching them to one particular page. I like to call it a floating wallpaper pocket because you can place it in various pages and just paper clip it on or put it inside of a pocket. They're really, really useful for putting in extra ephemera, and that way they're not just glued on and it doesn't take up one full page of writing. So I really, really love utilizing my floating wallpaper pockets. Oh, this paper is really pretty. It has a little butterfly on it and some flowers, some music pages, and then here I have created a really beautiful lace flap of some gorgeous French lace that I have in my collection. This lace was included in the textile embellishment kit, and I only have a little bit left, so I think I'm going to be using it in other journals. Then I have this really pretty watercolored image, and I took it to my typewriter and I put bloom within you. I always talk about blooming, hence why my name is Amity Bloom, but for me, the word bloom symbolizes more than just a flower growing. It's a concept that can be applied to your life. For me, every person on this planet is a flower, and we're all meant to bloom in the best way possible. And then on here, it's a small little book page from a vintage sewing book. I created a beautiful pocket out of some really vintage lace that I have, and I created a really pretty embroidery, stitched it onto the lace, and then in the pocket I have this really pretty ephemera piece. I printed this off from Pinterest and I just cut around it, and it's really, really pretty. I imagine this is the house in the country where the fairy was first seen. I just think it's so magical to include these little bits and pieces that really make your story that you're trying to interpret into your journal come to life. And then on this page, some more textiles on the side, created a pocket, and in this pocket I have a little piece of paper that says my favorite flowers in the garden, and I passed this through my typewriter. I wanted to give you guys some extra journaling space where you could journal about flowers. I imagine if you love fairies and flowers, you have a garden, or perhaps you want to start a garden, and this is a perfect way to document the flowers that you grow in your garden. And then I created a little faux seed packet where you can pretty much put any type of ephemera that you want in there. You can put seeds in there if you want to. I just loved this scrapbook paper. I cannot remember where I purchased it from. I think it was from Joann's a long, long time ago, and this was the last little piece that I had, and I knew I had to include it in this journal. The color scheme just goes perfectly together, and of course, you know I always include some typewriter font recipe pages. This is something that I love including in all of my journals. I love the font, and I just think it gives it a really beautiful vintage touch to your pages. I love collaging over these pages as well because typewriter font is the perfect background, just like music paper. And then on these pages, you can see that there's some beautiful floral imagery. This was from a vintage coloring book, and I knew I had to include some of these pages in here, sticking to that fairy and floral style that linen and lace resemble so perfectly. Here's some vintage writing paper that was used like in primary school. I love including that when I can find it. Here's some vintage music paper, and I've included one of my signature and all-time favorites, fabric flip outs. And I love doing this because you can flip it out, you can put a picture, you can journal on there, and it just kind of hides it in secret, and I love doing that. It's something that I really enjoy creating and including in all of my journals. Some vintage recipe pages from books, but this one specializes in how to utilize herbs that you get from the garden. Here I have this really pretty image of some herbs, and then I just passed it through my typewriter and wrote garden in French. It's very similar to Spanish, because in Spanish, a garden, we say jardín, and here I think it's jardín or jardín. I'm not the best when it comes to French, so please excuse my French, but in Spanish, we do say jardín. And on this page, I couldn't get enough of the vintage typewriter recipe pages. And then on the side, I did a little trio of some textile collages. And on this one, I did some really cute tiny embroidery of some flowers blooming, some more vintage typewriter recipe pages. Another really beautiful image, but this one is of some lavender, and I passed it through my typewriter again. My typewriter accidentally skips sometimes, but I love that effect because it makes it look even more vintage and more authentic, which is a style that I really like implementing and going for. And then on this music page, I included one of my fabric pockets. I collaged a little bit of trim on the top, and it's perfect for keeping your ephemera nice and safe and in a beautiful little pocket. And then on this page, I included on this paper clip with a gorgeous little floral bead on. I am obsessed with these little beads. I still have a little bit more in my collection, and I can't wait to keep using it. I included a really old page from a Wildflowers for Your Garden book. Really old. I couldn't include it in the book because it would just tear even if I reinforced it, so I thought it would be perfect to include it in a little paper clip so that you can then go in and choose if you want to use it for collage or if you just want to save it. And then included some images from the oh so wonderful Edith Holden book that we all know and love. You can't create a fairy journal without including some of these pages. Just stunning and goes perfectly with the style. And then on the other side, I included on this paper clip one of my textile embellishment art pieces, and this one having that same floral embroidery that you have seen on the cover, except it's a more salmon type of color. I always need to include some type of embellishment art piece paper clip to a journal, because that way you guys can decide if you want to create a pocket out of it, keep it paper clip. You can really feel the laces and the fibers. You can flip it over, and that's something that I personally love, is actually touching the textiles, appreciating them. So there is one of my textile embellishment art pieces. Some more school book paper, some really beautiful floral images, a nice assortment of different size pages. And then here in this pocket, I love the collage that I did here. This is some beautiful French lace that I have in my collection, so I definitely am hoarding onto this. And then in the pocket, I have a couple more pages of some vintage wildflower books. I loved the illustrations. I think they're so beautiful. And then I have some vintage music pages, and this one is for strawberries. I just thought that was really cute to include because it has to do with the garden theme and the floral theme that we're trying to capture along with the fairy. And now we have reached one of my favorite parts of the entire journal. Of course, I love every inch and centimeter of this journal, but this is something that is just so magical and I want to recreate in my personal journal as well. In this book page, I created a pocket out of some really old vintage lace that I had, and then I created a little collage of some textiles, a little leaf sample, and then on a piece of paper it says that there's something magical captured in this little pocket. And I think it's time to take a look at what truly is so magical about this pocket. I have this ephemera that says A Dictionary of Fairy Trees. I just loved this image. I thought it was so special, and it really goes with the theme and the magical essence that I tried to capture in this little tag. So we'll put that back in there. And you might look at this and think this is just a regular tag, but it's actually not. It houses a very special secret, and I wanted it to look like a tag, just something normal that if anyone would flip through wouldn't really think twice about it. But the tag actually opens up just like this. And this is some really beautiful yarn. As you can see, I have this yarn ball next to me. This is some Irish wool yarn that I ordered from Ireland. I am obsessed with it, and I've been using it very sporadically here and there in my projects just because it's so soft. It's the most luscious yarn that I've ever felt. I wanted to keep the tag bare so that you could journal on top of it and you can customize it however you'd like. I love customizing the journals as much as I can, but then of course this is going to be someone's journal and you're going to fill it up with your memories, so I don't want to over embellish, of course. But opening up the tag, ta-da! I zoomed in a little bit so that you could see it a lot better, but when you open the tag, I passed this through my typewriter and it says, "I took a walk in the woods today. Towards the end of my walk, I came across a mysterious glowing bush of what I thought to be fireflies. They were actually fairies. What an exciting find, truly magical. The beauty of fairies inspires me to believe in the magic of nature." So I wanted to write something on the tag just to really get you in the mood of the magic of fairies. Oh my gosh, so sorry for being out of focus, but look at just how beautiful they look out of focus. They glisten more than when I'm in focus. I really loved how this effect turned out. I wanted to capture the beauty and the essence of fireflies and how when I was little I thought fireflies were fairies. And it's just so magical because if you flip it, it looks like nighttime with all of the fireflies. And then when you flip it over, it looks like the daytime and the fireflies are still visible. I wanted to get that effect of day and night playing with the natural shadows of the light. And then here on this side it says a special sample of grass. This is supposed to resemble some grass, and some fireflies decided to stick along for the ride and wanted to be included in this little journal. And then in the pocket I have included some natural recycled paper, and it's made out of recycled flowers and leaves, and so I thought it was perfect to include it in here. So I really hope that you guys love this little magical touch that I created in the journal. It's one of my favorites. And then, of course, you have your little yarn closure. That way no one knows the true secret of what lies behind this little tag. So completely over the moon in love with that beautiful little pocket. I'm just so happy with how it turned out. And then here on this page, I did a little fabric flip out, collage various elements together, and I love that you can see that beautiful thread on the back. I did some really pretty floral embroidery, and then this also flips out so that you have more journaling space, or if you want to hide something behind there. And then you can also hide something behind there. So if you have a double secret, you can put both of those secrets on this page. And then on this page, I have a little paper clip with some beautiful little charms that I created. And that paper clip is actually housing a sample of some of the fairies' clothing. Now, you know this is a signature of mine. I can't create a journal without doing some type of textile clothing sample included. And I knew I had to create a linen and lace fairy clothing sample that goes with this beautiful style. And of course, that clothing sample comes with a letter that documents the fairies. Absolutely beautiful, so in love with it, and it gives it that extra touch and feel that this is truly a journal where fairies were documented in, where fairies exist, and that's the whole idea that I wanted to capture. And then here I created a little pocket out of some vintage linens, and in the pocket I have this little ephemera that says, "The best times to see a fairy are at twilight, midnight, just before sunrise, and midday. Once a fairy has been spotted, be sure to keep your eyes fixed upon it. The fairy will only be seen for as long as one looks at it unwaveringly." I couldn't have said it better myself. Absolutely magical, so playful. It's just so much fun. I love having fun with my journals. Journaling is something that for me personally has to be fun. It has to inspire me, and I think there's no better way than to inspire you to create and write in a journal than a journal that's filled with a beautiful meaning to it. That's something that I absolutely love doing in my journals, is putting a ton of meaning into them. There's not one journal that I create that has no meaning to it. And then on the back is the final page, and I have included another image of the beautiful Eden Holden book. And then on the back it says Amity Bloom. And we are finished with the entire journal flip through. I hope you guys were able to see all of the love that was put into this journal. I wanted to capture something so beautiful, so pure, and so magical as a fairy and incorporate my own personal style of linen and lace into it. I was so excited to finally share a flip through of this journal. So if you're interested in purchasing this linen and lace fairy inspired journal into your collection and making it your own, it will be available this Saturday, which is April the 28th, at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you loved this journal and really appreciate the linen and lace style, then definitely stay tuned for tomorrow. I will also be posting another video tomorrow morning showcasing different types of textile embellishment pieces that I have created utilizing the linen and lace style, and the best part is that they will be for sale in my Etsy shop at the same time that this journal will be up. And there will also be a class that will focus on creating textile embellishments in the linen and lace styles. If you couldn't purchase the journal, you at least have a chance to purchase some textile embellishments, and you also have a chance to purchase the class where you learn my signature style of collaging linen and lace in a textile embellishment art form. So I'm so excited for you guys to see that. I want to thank you all so much for becoming a member of the Amity Bloom family. Our family just keeps growing and growing, and I'm in awe of the support and the love that we have here. Everyone in this family is a flower, and we're all blooming together, and I'm finally happy to be back and sharing some of my creations. I truly hope that you guys adored the Linen and Lace Fairy Inspired Journal. Make sure to stay tuned for tomorrow, where the next part of the Linen and Lace collection will be released. And of course, as always, my wonderful family, I hope that you guys have an incredible day filled with peace and love. Bye-bye.